Okay, it's 5:59. It's a building committee, call into order. Public comments? You gonna read it?
No, not this one.
Yeah, read it. Go ahead.
All right, I have to read something to you all. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comment. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address an agenda item to be considered by the board on tonight's agendas. Anyone who would like to speak during public comment must sign in prior to the start of the meeting and list the agenda item they want to discuss. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board for each agenda item. If more than 10 speakers are signed up to speak on the same agenda item, all additional speakers on that item shall be limited to 2 minutes. However, any public testimony who requires a translator will receive up to 6 minutes to address the board. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Please avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own children. If a speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concerns should be addressed through the district grievance process. District policy DGBA has been established for addressing employees' complaints. Policy F&G is the avenue for filing parents' complaints, and policy GF addresses community members' complaints. Grievance forms can be obtained at any campus administration office or in the central administration office. Thank you. Our first speaker for tonight is Mr. Jesus Aguilera on superintendent's statement. Is that correct? Correct. Okay, sir.
Mr. Aguilera, is that regarding one of the items on the agenda?
Yes.
Which committee meeting?
Let me see. I think it's the one when you went to my house to have steaks.
Mr.
Okay.
Aguilera, it has to pertain
look,
to an agenda item.
Okay. I'm going to read the statement, okay? First of all, I want to say.
It has to pertain to an agenda item. The
Okay,
board passed a new policy.
Está bueno. Here you go.
Mr. Aguilera.
I'm going to address the one for the
But is it for the building committee?
building thing.
Is it for the building
It's
committee?
gonna be for the building.
Which agenda
I'm
item?
gonna disregard those statements for you, okay? So we'll talk about the building, the facility, the football thing,
Okay.
right? Okay.
But as long as you stick to that agenda item,
Okay,
because
I understand.
policy has changed since last board
I
meeting.
understand what you did. I
Okay,
understand.
thank you.
Okay, I understand what you did, all of you.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I want to say to the FBI, if you're listening, we need your help here in San Benito. Okay, according to the, no te rías, Dato. The one that, here's the problem. And I'm glad you picked this gentleman to do that building because I was here that day. Okay, but let's stick to the plan. Let's stick to what we were gonna build, okay? Let's stick to the plan that we're gonna build the aquatic center. Let's stick to the plan about the auditorium, okay? Because I already hear the rumors that you're changing the plans. So all I'm asking is that you stick to the plan. Because you borrowed $40 million. You asked the public to get you $40 million. $40 million. Here's the problem. You're going to pay back $37 million in interest. And remember, that gentleman said, maybe I will give you $15 million back. That's still $17 million in interest. I had a discussion with this gentleman. I told him you can make $60 million in 3 years and pay $875,000 in interest. He thought about it for a couple of seconds and said, no, we're going the other way. $37 million. Do you know what $37 million looks like? No, you don't. Anyway, you picked a good company. That's all I can say. But I hope you go according to what you're gonna build. Because most of you will be dead by the time we finish paying for this bond. But our sons and our grandkids will be paying for your mistakes. Thank you.
Okay, next is Ms. Rosalinda G. Garcia on the bond and facilities.
Good evening, board and community. Like I have said before, I communicate with the superintendent, and today I asked about how the lighting project was going, and he says that it's ahead of schedule, they have to slow it down, and that sort of thing. And the Brighton Group, of course, one of its characteristics that they have stated is that all buildings are built ahead of schedule, under budget, and with the best quality. That's what I heard on the video. And with that in mind, like I said, what concerns me is the PAC, the Performing Arts Facility. Because, and it's not just a rumor, Mr. Aguilera. At one time on this committees, I heard about the Performing Arts Committee becoming downgraded to event center. It seemed like it was downgraded, but I hope we're back on track and do what was presented to the community, a state-of-the-art facility. And the budget for that is $30 million, more or less. And other things that I discussed with Dr. Carmen were, of course, the good, like y'all have purchased 95 buses, or more or less, no, they cost 95,000, but maybe 23 buses. And another concern that I brought up was, I don't know if this is about in the building committee, but the consultation services that Mr. Palacios is doing on the side besides the bond, he's being paid $100,800. We need to be transparent with the community. And I know when you were going to discuss his contract, one of the board members said, let's take it to executive session. Why can't the public, why can't the public hear important details as far as how much it's going to cost, how much we're paying for the services? Not that he's not entitled to the pay, the cost, of course, but we need to know. And if you feel that it's going to be confusing to us, you have your attorney or the superintendent to explain it to the community. Please stay transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are it for public comments.
Okay.
Nothing.
Item number 3, presentation by update on indoor facility project by Brighton Group. Mr. Palacios.
Good evening. Joseph Colossus with Brighton Group. I do have several colleagues here. We do have Alice Rodriguez with Brighton Group, and we do have PBK with us. Also, the Hellas Group is with us, and GDJ Engineering as well. The last time that we met, we prepared a slideshow to go over what's been done since our last meeting in July. As you see, our project team is on board, fully contracted, and they continue to do their level of service in hopes to get this project underway. On Thursday, July 11th, we've had our last board update. Following that board update on July 11th, on Tuesday, July 23rd, our group, as well as the PBK group and designated board members, did visit the Barbers Hill indoor facility. That was for the mere purpose to make sure that whatever monies are invested in an indoor program, you get the best return on investment. And that's really, there's only one in the valley right now with Brownsville Rivera. Being able to see the Barbers Hill allows us to evaluate to assure that you're maximizing your investments. That was done Tuesday, July 23rd. On Tuesday, August 13, 2019, it allowed us to finally develop the final project schematic on what we now are running every number on and in hopes to generate the GMP on. On Thursday, August 15, 2019, we did have our ceremonial groundbreaking ceremony. And since then, we've been working with coordination with the required entities and stakeholders. Building a facility, there's so many moving pieces. As you board members, some of us joined us on the site visits for the Performing Arts Center. It's not as simple as brick and mortar. There's a lot of moving pieces. And it's easy to believe that this, in respect to the indoor facility, that it's a simple building. Well, it's not a simple building, especially when you have kids in there, especially if you put 100% of your programming into that facility. As we were researching all the on-site, off-site utility needs as PBK was working on schematic design, we uncovered that there was a great need to start coordinating with entities. One of the entities, obviously, is City of San Benito. We've had regular meetings with them to discuss the on-site and off-site utility needs to the facility. And they've asked us to do a couple of things. We are preparing a traffic impact statement. We also coordinated with the Cameron County Drainage District number 3 on a hydrologic study, as well as a discharge permit that's required for the facility. At this time, I'd like to turn over to Robert Macheska with GDJ Engineering, and just to talk a little bit, to have a better understanding that, again, it's not just the footprint of the building that we're dealing with, but there's a lot of other variables that we have to account for when we're building these facilities. I'll turn it over to Robert just to discuss those two items.
Thank you, Joseph. Good afternoon. Robert Macheska, GDJ Engineering, just for the record. So as Mr. Colossus was alluding to, we kind of came on board late in the project. You all had a parking lot project that was being done, and so at the time, Drainage District came and advised the construction. You all hadn't had a permit for to discharge into their system. So we got a call and said, hey, let's take a look at it. We were able to work with the board here and the Drainage District, and we were able to facilitate, provide an H&H report, provide backing to allow the Drainage District to allow the school district to permit to discharge. So while we were going through that ordeal with the Drainage District, they said, well, what about the rest of I know you guys have a planned facility, right? So what about the rest of the property? So we took a look at it with them, and they said, you know what? We're realizing none of this has been permitted. So let's take a look at it. Let's get it ready. And so we said, look, it probably makes more sense to let's get it ready for the future. Not just what you have now, but your future buildings, future conditions. Make sure all of the areas that are going to be developed in the future, everything is set up. That way you're ready to go. So we've got the permit approved on the parking lot project, and now we're in the process. We're coordinating with the rest of the team, PBK Hellas, Brighton Group, and getting all the files put together. So that way we can look and see what needs you all will need by way of detention, drainage, that sort of thing, so we can make sure that everything is in place and there are no concerns on the offsite as far as that goes. We've also coordinated with the city, and they had some concerns about, I don't think they really understood the full scope of the project that you guys were working on. They had some questions about, is this gonna cause a lot more traffic? Is this gonna cause, are we gonna have to work on our city streets, that sort of thing? So by way of the traffic impact statement, we'll be able to work with the city and just provide them, look, this is nobody's coming to drive to that facility. The school, the children in the facility will be using that as practice and that sort of thing. So we'll be working with the city on that aspect. That way you guys, we want to make sure that when this project is said and done, there are no lingering issues, everything is set, and we're ready to go and open it up and have a great facility. So that being said, everything else by way of the drainage district, we should be in place once we finish all the coordination on the new items. So we want to leave everything perfect for you and set up for the future, so you don't have to, spend money and come back and do it again. So that way we can make sure it's set up for you for all your future conditions, everything that you're gonna do in the future, you propose to do. We have it set up, ready to go, and you guys are good with your drainage in the drainage district. So,
Yeah, and so where you have the high school as well as all the support facilities, basically what we're doing is a hydrologic map to make sure we account all for the flows. So one of the things, as Robert was saying, the district, and this goes back decades, there's never been an official permit with the drainage district. It's one of the requirements that they're requiring. So rather than just account for the watershed that's going to be coming from this new building, we're going to take all of the property that's within the school and all the support facilities to ensure that we account for those flows to make sure that we can kind of provide retention and then to set a bleeder line into their system. But those are some of the elements that we're working, and GDJ Engineering is assisting us on that. Now, and I can appreciate Ms. Cantu and Mr. Aguilera regarding a lot of the scopes and the transparency. And when we came on board, we've always wanted to be genuine in our service. We wanted to make sure that if there's no duplication of efforts or fees, and make it as transparent as possible. All the work on the hydrologic, all the traffic impact statement, it's no charge to the district. We figure if we're here already, we have good professionals that are doing it pro bono. This is something in the range anywhere between 20 and 30,000 that GDJ is given to the district to make sure that we continue to be a service to the district. These are things that we're not procuring for, and I just want to make sure that we clear that. The parking lot project is nothing. We were a support system just to be there in place. We were able to address the construction regarding the permit. They didn't stop that project. So we're here to troubleshoot why we're here, whether we're here for the bond projects or any other projects that you have. If we're here, please, we committed to you all that we were going to be of service and not just hit scope and fee every time you turn. But I do appreciate the concern in regards to the facility, and I'd like to start talking about the nature of the facility and why we're where we're at. And I'd like to just start with, initially we came on board after the election, and there was a conceived thought, and they've done a great job having a committee and the board committed to a committee, and there was a good program in regards to the model that you wanted to follow with the Brownsville-Rivera indoor facility. We visited, Dr. Carmen as well as other board members visited that facility, and it's the only one in the valley. And we immediately started inventorying a lot of the pros, the cons, and we visited with the users and from the superintendent all the way to the coaches, and we made sure that if we did anything, we would learn from their mistakes and to make sure at the end of the day that we don't repeat those mistakes in this deal. That plan, that initial plan, had some limitations. It had a lot of limitations. Real quick, there's unconditioned space and conditioned space. In the unconditioned space, just based on them wanting to stay within a budget, they use your typical garage doors that come inward. One of the things they complain about daily is the fact that those impede a lot of the practice that goes on with the football program and some of the other things. So we were really quick on noting a lot of the deficiencies on their model. They did a great job. I mean, it's the only one in the valley, but we wanted to make sure that the residents of San Benito assured that if you were going to spend $1, that there was going to be a return on investment, not just that if anything was programmed, it was going to make sure that we would mitigate the cons in regards in the design as well as the functionality of the building. So I'd like to bring up David Iglesias with PBK, and he's going to walk through what the last 60-plus days have been regarding the schematic phase, the design development specifications, a lot of what we've done on the construction documents, budget and estimating, and a lot of the value engineering and cost controls that we've gone through in the last couple of months. So I'll turn it over to David with PBK.
Mr. Palacios, I got a question for you real
Yes, sir.
quick. You mentioned that the drainage system, we never had a permit, and this goes back decades. My concern, first and foremost, right off with that, is, first of all, I want to thank you and your team for expediting that whole process to make sure that we can continue moving this project forward, because if I'm not mistaken, that process could take a long time in order for that whole certification to go through. Am I correct?
You're very correct. The Drainage District was very cooperative. They were on site and matter of fact, made an issue pertaining to the construction because they had no recorded permit. We quickly did a hydrology study, made sure that we accounted for the new queues that were coming from the new parking lot. Again, and it's nobody's fault. It's just one of the things that new requirements, we're not having your traditional 1-inch rain anymore. We're looking at 100-year events. And as time goes by, the requirements now for drainage and wind is a big issue, especially for Cameron County. So when we uncovered it, we didn't want to stop construction. I know the district was needing to get a lot of those systems in place before school started. So we took it upon ourselves just to get in, provide the hydrologic study. Chris and his staff were able to do it and offer the permitting that was required by their legal counsel. So we remedied that. But one of the things that was really important, it was a requirement that we were going to have on an indoor. So we just found it fitting to go ahead and start building upon what they were able to do to prepare for what we're going to be accounting for the entire high school as well as the new facilities. So it's better to do it, as Robert's saying, it's better to do it right the first time.
But I think it's important for the board to understand the dynamics of what it takes to get these projects going and what it takes behind the scenes. But I think we need to give, as a board here and as a district, I think we need to thank the county for expediting this whole process, because it does take a long time. And I want to greatly appreciate you guys for expediting that for us. And it greatly means a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
special thanks to Sonia and her staff. They were very cooperative. They gave us a conditional go-ahead on the parking lot project, and they're not holding us up by any means in regards to accounting for the new project. So everything's working in progress, dealing with the drainage, the discharge, and then all the off-site, on-site utilities. City of San Benito has done a great job in assisting us. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Iglesias.
Mr. Palacio, real quick, just so the people can understand, those little perks that we're getting, like the paving on the high school, you helped us out with that. And you analyzed the whole thing for everybody else. So that's besides what you're doing for us.
Yeah.
So those little things add up also in the long run, and thank you for your help.
Well, and I appreciate it, and we'll continue to be of service. Again, we want to look beyond. If we're here already, if our technical staff can assist the district in any way, again, we're here. We'll be here for a while, and we want to make sure we be of service to you all as well.
Good evening. So as Joseph mentioned, yes. Upon our visit to Barbers Hill, we finished the last of schematic design. We made a little tweak to the weight room just based on the observation we had at Barbers Hill as far as square footage. And so since then, we pretty much finished schematic design. We had a floor plan established. We had the elevations established, and moved on to, following the groundbreaking, we immediately moved on to design development. So within 2 weeks following the groundbreaking, we were able to put together a package, which is the set of drawings you have there. I didn't print out the specs. The draft set of specs is over 1,000 pages. But we were able to put a draft set of specs together and get that over to Hellas so they can refine their estimate. We issued that to them the end of August 30th. And so last week, or earlier this week, we received their estimate. And so I think we're, on target as to where we need to be. Now that we have their number, we can look at some systems, look at some alternatives for some cost control, some value engineering, and get this project where it needs to be without affecting the look, without affecting any square footage and so forth. Since we issued that, Civil has progressed for the site utilities, for the grading and so forth. So we received their latest review set today. So we're reviewing that. We'll get that over to Hellas. So we may look at packaging that up as a separate GMP for that site utility phase. So that way they can go ahead and start bidding that work out and develop the GMP and therefore start moving on that. While that's in progress, we're still continuing on to the building as far as CDs. So structural has continued to progress, MEP has continued to progress, we've continued to progress, structural and so forth. So we're hoping that as the utility work's getting bid, establishing the GMP for that scope of work, immediately when they start that, come the latter part of October, we'll be delivering the next set of documents over to Hellas to establish the GMP for the second phase. So
Next, I'd like to bring up Hellas as our CMA contractor. Again, just re-echoing Mr. Iglesias, when we started, and just going historically, again, the district did a good job of having committee. There are no plans. I think the general public believes that there were plans when the bond election happened. That was non-existent. There were no plans. There was an idea and a hope. Bond funds weren't received until March. And just to put it into perspective, around the March timeframe is when we procured for architectural services. In that is a great degree of design, value engineering and all. PBK has done a phenomenal job. Some of the things that I gotta give them commendation on is the fact on the commitment to the district to offer the best price. One of the things that the district had as an option was to whether go to design build versus a CMAR process. The benefit definitely went to San Benito residents and taxpayers on the CMAR process. A design build, we ran an analysis, which could have been somewhere around the $1 million in soft cost fees for architectural, civil, and all the other elements that typically go to a design build contract. Being the fact that we win a CMAR and the commitment that PBK has given the district and the community of San Benito, everything was done under a 6% at 5.57 for architectural and an additional percent for everything else, meaning civil, landscape, structural, acoustics. It's kind of unheard of in the industry for these particular projects. Their end dollars was mid 300,000. So you do the comparison between mid 300,000 to what could have been about $1 million in soft costs, just because a district initiated a CMAR process and we had committed groups like the PBK group, it really turned out to the benefit of the district. And I just want to commend PBK for, they could have fought a higher percentage, but they were really committed to come to the district and offer a discount on their percentage for the design. But they've done a phenomenal job. At this time, I'd like to turn over to Brian Parks with the Hellas Group. And then again, we did have a ceremonial, and this is an often question that possibly you all get questioned. In August, we had a groundbreaking ceremony. Again, everything's working in current. It was a ceremonial process for us to begin construction. We are under the CMAR process. The plans are being generated as we're preparing the first GMP. And shortly, I'll start talking about the timetables, and you're going to see that construction is right in front of us. But I'll cover that after the presentation with Hellas. So I'll turn it over to Brian Parks with the Hellas Group. They are our contractor for the indoor multi-use purpose facility. Brian?
Dr. Carmen, Board, Brian Parks, Hellas Construction. We're super excited to work with PBK and the Brighton Group to build y'all not only the best indoor facility in this area, the best in the state. And based on what I've seen with them design so far, it's headed in the right direction. And we've hired Coy Stevens and Edith Zapata locally down here to be y'all's project managers, and I'll let them elaborate more on what they've been doing the last 6 months down here.
Good evening. What we've been working on down here so far is we have got and set up a fully operational office on site that we're working out of as we speak every day on site. Where we've been putting together the budget and all the estimates. We've been getting ready all the bid packages for the subcontractor. Whenever it's ready to go out to bid, we're ready next day to send it to everyone. And we've also started preparing for the GMPs. Phase 1 and Phase 2, whenever they're released, we're ready to go for that.
And now I'll start covering what the next steps are, which is probably the most important. So as discussed, we are preparing for our bid advertisement. for the first GMP. We are looking at advertising this Sunday. We missed the window, so it might not be this Sunday. It might look at the Wednesday advertisement. In the next 14 days, we'll be advertising the first GMP, which encompasses the site preparation, the domestic water, the sanitary sewer, the fire line, fiber optics, and drainage. After the advertisement, we're coordinating a pre-bid construction meeting on Thursday, October 10th. Again, give or take a day or so based on the advertisement. We do have a great crop of local subs. The Hellas Group has done a great job on communicating with a lot of potential subs in the area the last couple of months as we're preparing it for these packages to be released. We are working concurrently. So even though we're talking about a phase 1, phase 2, all of it works concurrently. So we are in the process of finalizing all the design development documents, all the specifications. I think we delivered the spec book the other week. It's literally about that thick. And it goes to every single light fixture, the type of padding. There is so much detail into that I got to commend the Hellas Group on generating their baseline budgets to make sure that we're able to make sure that they're offering a great rate for every element that they're going to be putting within this facility. The final phase 2 GMP documents will be delivered by the end of this month, so we're looking at a couple of weeks for the phase 2. And what you'll see is a seamless construction. As we release this, advertise, and we look at the first GMP third week in 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be already having the phase 2 package. They'll price it, we'll turn in the second GMP, and this whole thing will start from a few weeks onward and until we're finished. So we're still determining when the phase 2 pre-bid meeting will be, as well as the phase 2 GMP. I'd like to go to our schedule. This is the same schedule we supplied in our July meeting. As you can see in the month of October, it is the GMP Construction Administration. We are in October. So for those that think that we're behind schedule, we're actually on schedule, give or take a week or so. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it's going to kind of run into the next slide. What's more important, time or money? We'd love to build it fast. If we build it fast, I feel that you're going to miss out on the great service that's here before us through PBK, through the Brighton Group, as well as the Hellas Group. If I can go into and this will explain the why. If we go into the next slide, we did a market comparison, and these are public record. The model that we have to compare is the Brownsville indoor facility. That's the only one in the valley. If I can go back, they did a bond election in October 2015. At that time, they had a groundbreaking in February 17th of 2016, and then they had a substantial completion in March 25th of 2017. So we're going back to that. And that was the beginning thought of when San Benito decided, hey, we need to have one of these facilities for our kids, and so that we can enhance every programming that we have. They have a total of 31,000 square feet, 123. They do have a 60-yard synthetic field in an unconditioned space, and they have a weight room of 5,114. They had a contracted budget of $2.5 million, and this is the most important part. The overall cost per square foot was $80.33 on the overall. If you were to take $2016, that's when it was contracted, the construction index on construction inflation is about the 5% mark. That'd be about 15%. So in today's dollars, if they built the same facility, it would be in the total of $2.8 million, almost 2.9, at a cost of $92 a square foot. So I'm going to compare the Brownsville Rivetta system or unit building accounts for football, soccer, cheer, limited band on the marching formations, because they really do practice within. The formations go from a 5-yard line to a 5-yard line, and then all other programming. The time frame that the Brownsville Rivetta project went from the bond election to when they ribbon cut it was 1 year and 6 months. That's the period that it took them to generate the plans, get the bids, go into construction, and then build the facility. I think it was a benefit to have that facility here and to be able to use the last few months to really right a wrong right and say, if we did this, how can we do it right? And so we did a lot of intake in the last few months. When we started, that was the idea. When we first had our first stakeholder meeting, there was a lot of, and these are users of the future facility. It was band, it was football, it was everybody. When we did our initial intake, it's like anything else. This is the process to make sure that we maximize the use of the facility. By then, we envision if we were to count everybody's wants, we were right around 83,000 square feet. From 31 to Brownsville model to 83,000. We assessed initial budget when we ran our numbers, and that put us around the 7.5 million, which would have been about an $89 square foot, per square foot overall. Since then to now, and I got to commend all our team, our job and our commitment to the district was to utilize a team to make sure that we looked at cost controls, value engineering, making sure that if we did anything at all, that we can assure that at the end of the day, we do it within the respective budget that was set. And if there was any deviation, that there was a logical reason why. So the last couple of months, we finalized in August. We now are at a 52,300 square foot synthetic field at 90 yards, particularly to assure that you can maximize every single program you have, from band, cheer and dance, football, soccer, softball, baseball, everything. We didn't want to make this building limited. The next task is to figure out, can we squeeze the budget to make it work? At 71,130 square feet, we had a budget projection somewhere around the 5.5. Our overall cost, and these are numbers that the Hellas group has supplied the group, we're around $77 a square foot, which we believe is under the market rate. I don't want to re-echo that again because they're in the audience and we're still negotiating the final GMP. We are working back and forth to assure that we continue to do the work as we're preparing GMP number 2, and we have a lot of ideas where we can squeeze even more money to get it down. That doesn't delay construction. These are in the elements of painting. These are the elements as the final fixtures. Every little thing, the lighting and all. Every day, the PBK group are making sure if we can squeeze another couple of dollars, we're going to figure that out without delaying construction. So our job has not finished yet. I would love to say, hey, here's your package, and it is what it is, but that's not what you hired us to do. You hired us to continue to be mindful, one, of the taxpayer dollar, to make sure that we stretch it as far as we can, and we develop that project and put it on the ground to make sure that, one, it had the best, it was most functional to your needs and the future, and to make sure that we stretched the dollar as far as we could. In its current state, we're accounting football, soccer, dance, cheer, full band, marching formations, baseball, softball, an expanded weight room, training room, lobby with display for branding and all other programming. Our time frame right now, which if we go to the next slide, shows, well, it was our budget, our timetable. We are 1 year, 6 months, same as the Brownsville model. We're not giving up just yet. We're going to continue to squeeze it. In the second GMP, that's where a lot of the bulk of the costs are. And we have a lot of areas that we believe that we're going to be able to maximize your investment. That is our presentation, and we are all open for any questions, and we'd be glad to answer any question you all have.
I didn't necessarily have a question, just a comment. I know y'all have been praising each other, but I wanted to praise you all for the hard work. It seems like y'all have been intentional in terms of where we want to end up. I mean, can we go back a slide really quick? Just the second to the last? Just second to the last. If we just compare where we were at the beginning of the bond committees, I mean, we're talking about dreaming big, right? I mean, everything everybody wanted, but the fact that we've been able to kind of whittle all of that down, but still we're ending up with a 90-yard facility to accommodate a full band formation. As a former band member, I appreciate that because I know how important that's going to be for our kids. And not only that, so what's our current square footage of our current weight room that our kids have?
So right now you have just under 2,500 square feet.
So if you think about that, just for our football players and anybody else who's going to use them, we're going from a 2,500-ish weight room to a 10,000-foot weight room. So that just puts into perspective, I think, how important all the planning went into all of this. So the intentionality is what we appreciate, but not only that, I think the presentation today was very transparent and detailed, because I know we hear from community members that we lack transparency around here, but if you want to take this presentation home with you and really study it, I think this is one of the most transparent presentations that we've ever had. So
Well,
thank you.
and if I could say the why, if the general public has ever walked into your weight room, there's a lot of liability. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of weights, and these kids, we were there when we did a walkthrough with some of the board members, and they're very energetic, they're very prideful, and it's just, it's way too small. Your average, and I'll get to you, sir, thank you. Your average size is somewhere around the 5 to 7. Again, what you don't build today, we figured there's a great opportunity right now when we're so far under the market rate that we look at making sure that you're not looking 5 years down the road and saying, well, we gotta extend this building and phase another additional 3,000 square feet. Yes, sir.
You said it's gonna be 10,000 square feet, correct? For the weight?
Yes, sir.
What part of it is gonna be for the girls, and what part of it is gonna be for the boys?
And that's a really great question. So we went through many models, and unfortunately not in South Texas. We saw the best models where they cooperatively, based on the way they do the weight room, where they created aisles, and there's some sort of segregation in a sense where they're there in the same facility, but there's still some respect to boys versus girls. The bathrooms, PBK was really good to make sure that we had all those options as we're doing the layouts for that. So we're gonna be very conscientious of that because, again, they're adolescent kids, and yes, they're young adults, but again, they're young adults too. Some may be more developed than the others, and we wanna make sure that we're really respectful to your demographics of your kids and making sure that we look at safety first and to make sure that we don't put females or males in an adverse position. So we're going to be looking at that, and so we'll be offering those options as we're finalizing the phase 2 package, which is a couple of weeks.
Thank you,
We'll be
Mr. Plus.
receptive to that.
Thank you.
Sir, did you say you started work on the parking lot project? You let him ask, so.
Well, and that's a good question. So the parking lot project is a district project. We were just here in assistance if in fact they needed anything, obviously.
Mr. Palacios, it's not a public comment anymore, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Palacios, I want to go ahead and, once again, when we started this project, we wanted to involve, of course, we had committees and we got, pretty much all the stakeholders in the district together to come up with ideas to see how we would benefit everybody in a huge circumference. So what I want to do is I want to thank you so much because I think with the extension here to the 90 yards, we've, pretty much included every single, extracurricular activity that we have into this building. So I just want to thank you so much because I know it was pressing for a lot of our programs to make sure that they were going to be able to utilize this building, and I think it's great. I think it's going to turn out to be great.
Well, and don't think that we don't listen to the comments in the general public. I mean, they are concerned. They want to make sure that their dollars are best used. We stand in front of it. We definitely want to be as transparent as possible to make sure that we maximize it. It's our priority. It's one of the promises we've made. But I'll commend. It's beyond me. We have a staff of over a dozen in just my office. I'm just the spokesman, and I'm here as often as I can be. But we got a great group of teams along with David. He has a full staff, both here in the Houston office. With the Hellas group, we have their on-site staff, as well as all those that are up in the Austin office. Again, there's more than just us that are working tirelessly to make sure. If you looked at the original slide in regards to our partners, there's a lot of companies here. And it takes a lot to make sure that they're hitting their deadlines and we're doing the review process. And I would love to go down. I would need a few hours to show you the level of service that, not just from from the project management side, but from architectural as well as construction. It goes a long way. Again, my job is not to tell you about the labor pains, but deliver this baby. And we're going to do this, and we're right at that point. But again, I don't want to take all the questions. If there are any other questions, we have all the teams here, very capable of answering any question, concern that you may have. So we're here.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
Y'all are
very
doing an
much,
awesome
Mr.
job.
Palacios.
Yes.
Very informative.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 4, presentation, irrigation pipeline, Mr. Garcia.
Members of the board, Dr. Carmen, good evening. In 2005, the district purchased 37 acres from a local farmer, which is now our Riverside Middle School. That was farmland, which most of our land around here is. It was irrigated. I'm sure Mr. Garza used it a lot. If you look at your maps, I gave you a small map, blueprint. You can see where Riverside is now by Leah Street, and you see that dashed line where it says water line. If you follow it back to the left, you'll see that you have Hernandez Estates there. Well, Mr. Hernandez is asking to make a subdivision there. And he has a small problem, whereas the water rights that go through his land to the Riverside area need to be abandoned by us, the district, because in order for him to subdivide, he has to have that abandonment sign-off from the district to allow him to continue with the subdivision. And that's basically all what we're presenting right now. Michael Rios is from Rio Surveying, is here with me if you have any questions. And that's basically all it is. We'll probably not ever use the irrigation lines that are there. As a matter of fact, during the construction phase, it probably got lost to begin with because we've never even seen any stand-up pipes or anything there. So, does anybody have any questions on that? Pretty cut and dry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5, review and discussion of request for quotes on canopies, Mr. Carmen?
Okay, you have, took me a second to open it. In your board pack, you have our 3 bids from our vendors who are members of our co-ops. We are recommending that we go with our lowest bid, which is Noble Texas Builders.
Of course.
Their bid for Garza, Rangerville, La Paloma, Fred Booth, and Dr. Cash totals out to $204,462. If you have any questions, Mr. David Garcia is here. You can probably answer them.
Agenda item then? Let me go back here. Okay, number 6, review and discussion of land lease between City of Los Indios and San Benito CISD for additional use by adding a water quiz on property?
Yeah, Mr. Rosas, I will contact Dr. Carmen about this particular one because I was contacted by the mayor of Los Indios, and they wanted to include a water kiosk on their property for the nearby either homes or parks or whatever. So it's essentially they want to install a water kind of hydrant or type thing so they can just have the water to drink. And so that's what that is, unless you want to add any more. I don't know if there's a legal on this?
We haven't received a proposal from Los Indios, but they are leasing that land from us, so hopefully by the next board. Proposal over.
Right, so essentially, we just need the board's approval to do any improvements on that land since they're leasing it, right? That's the gist of it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's agenda item? Yep. Okay. Number 7, committee concerns. Ladies? No concerns?
Thank you.
Adjourn at 6:50.